There's a federal law called Title IV-D. It was passed in the late 1970s. This is the cause of the divorce explosion in the 1980s and the creation of, there were no family courts in the early 1980s. They didn't exist. They were created specifically because of Title IV-D. Title IV-D provides for matching funds for the collection of child support. So I don't know about Virginia, but I know about Texas. In Texas, it's $500 million. It's $480 to $520 million per year. The more child support that's issued, the more money the state gets in reimbursements. The more it collects, the more it gets in reimbursements. The entire Texas Attorney General's office is funded by the child support collection matching funds from Title IV-D. Texas actually has a law in the Texas Government Code which requires all judges to rule in cases in such a way to maximize Title IV-D reimbursements.
Wow.
Before anything is heard in case. This explains a lot of peculiar things in family court. Family court's known for giving custody to the dysfunctional parent, and they just do it consistently. They do it all the time. I watched a case ahead of mine one time, and they gave 2 children back to a heroin addict mother who had successfully passed the drug test after 15 days for the first time.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
What was the alternative? Why would they do
that? That makes no sense, right? Everybody goes, nobody in their right mind would do things like, why do they do it? Here's why they do it. The state knows full well it will never collect child support from a heroin addict.
Oh.
And all that matching money, they don't get it.
Got it.
They know that the responsible parent will bankrupt themselves to protect their child and to take care of their child, and they'll get all the matching money for that. So the decision in family court doesn't come down to, are you a fit and willing parent? If that were the case, then in 99% of the cases, you would have both parents getting 50-50 custody because both parents are fit and willing, right? Most abuse is actually much rarer than we think, right?
Yeah.
So abuse and neglect, those are 2 ends of the spectrum, right? So what they do is they say, which person here will give me the maximum Title IV reimbursement for the state?
Wow.
And that's the person who loses custody so that they pay child support. That's the real calculation that's going on. You mentioned CPS, and if you're looking at laws around this, you need to know about Title IV-E. Title IV-E gives reimbursements for taking children. There are massive federal programs that were instituted in the late 1970s that pay states trillions of dollars to tear families apart. Like in Texas, we get 66 cents on the dollar put into the Texas Treasury for every dollar of child support that's paid. So the state is now highly incentivized to issue the maximum amount of child support. That's why almost all divorces got 50-50 prior to the 1980s, and there was this skyrocketing of divorces where one parent loses custody, and that was to maximize Title IV-D reimbursements to the states. In Texas, it's $500 million to the Texas budget.
If the state is profiting off of child support?
Correct. And in most states, the Judicial Retirement Fund is funded from this money.
Government does not want you to know this.
If you get the woman out of the house and working, then you're going to increase the tax because girls are making more money now, and so they're taxed more, so the governments are making more money, and then you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone because now you're separating the man and the wife, so the man has less authority over the wife, and they're more separated, they're not as bonded, they're not as close together, and then you also send off your kids to school. So the family is separate, and when the family is independent, the family is not strong. They're easier to control, they're easier to manipulate, and the government makes more money off of it. So the idea of me working really hard, making a bunch of money, keeping my wife at home, keeping us close, and then she's with the kids, she's close to the kids, and she's programming the kids. The government does not like that because the government does not get to push what they want to my kids.
For sure.
They make less money because my wife doesn't work, and we're just stronger and more resilient towards them. They don't like that. So that's what I've heard.
Before the Capitol PSYOP, January PSYOP at the Capitol, and COVID-19, I was 8-2 in the courts representing myself. And that is exactly why those 2 events were scheduled at that time, because it was the absolute loss of all rights, because this all changed at that point.
Hey guys, this is the Truth Whisperer, and this is number 3 in the segment of hashtag Enough is Enough. And this is going to be a breakdown of how corrupt the judiciary is and how it got that way. When you look at the 249 years that this country has been a country, and you see that 80 to 85% of the electorate was or is a lawyer, you begin to see what the problem is. You see, the original judiciary was set up with 2 branches. There was a Admiralty Maritime branch of the government, military tribunals that settled commerce disputes, and lawyers were just merely tortfeasors. And somewhere along the line, they realized that they could manipulate the ambiguities of the English language to garner favorable results for the highest bidder. So they did away with the common law division of the courts, which was written into the Constitution for the people. And in that Constitution, in those common law articles of the Constitution, there was a bond created in your name that settles all matters before the bench that are not capital offenses. Okay? So now that they've done away with the common law articles and they've created this straw man figure that is he's a financial character. He's a corporation. He's a fictional corporation created by the government, and they hold you, the living, breathing man, accountable for your corporate fiction. And that way they can put your ass in jail while they take that bond that was created by the Constitution and buy cocaine or do whatever they want with it. Okay? That's the reality of how things work. Okay? So, in order to communicate with and defeat any enemy, you have to learn their language. You know, before you go to war with China, the first thing you have to do is learn how to speak Chinese, or you're not going to be able to eat. You're not going to be able to recognize when they're surrendering if you don't know what they're saying. And you can't win a war without communication. So, a while back, a bunch of guys in the child support arena on YouTube were charging guys, $800 to $1,200 to do these long, drawn out, programs on how to, do these UCC filings and all this shit that takes years to get. It should have been in place long before you got into trouble, in order for it to work. So I garnered what I could from each situation, and I came up with 13 words that will stop any non-capital proceeding at first appearance by using commercial language. When you at first appearance, when they ask you to enter a plea, you cannot enter a plea. You can say these 13 words and stop it all. They're going to try to coerce you and threaten you to get past this, but this is your right. This is your constitutional right to demand this. Okay? You tell them, before we proceed, this tribunal must certify my right to subrogation in writing. That's it. You just let them know that that you're fully aware that they're trying to steal the bond that was created under the United States Constitution that settles all matters before the bench. And at that point, the prosecutor should take the case file, which is yours. It's your case. It's your file. And the check that he took out against your bond that morning in case he failed. Because when the state's attorney decides that they want to file charges against you, they have to take out a bond, a security bond, in case they lose the case. Because if they lose the case, they have to pay that amount. Okay? So that's why you don't see many people losing and many prosecutors losing, and that's why the system is so rigged against you, because it's stacked up by these corrupt pieces of shit in Congress and in the judiciary. All these people writing all these corporate policies that protect them. Every agency that used to protect we the people from the tyranny of government are now weaponized and aimed at us. And they protect the corporate entities from us. That's where we're at right now. Okay? So, it's sad, you know? And that's unfortunately the way it is. When you hire an attorney, unless you've got enough money to buy the biggest scumbag, corrupt piece of shit that you can find, who is able to pay off the judge, who is an experienced scumbag piece of shit, corrupt fuck, you might as well just save your money for when you get out of prison or whatever, because you can do just as well by yourself. Because here's the deal. The judge and the prosecutor and your lawyer belong to the same bar association. They're sworn to uphold the same oath of office, and they have the same duty to the state. Okay? They're on the same team. They hang out at the same gay bar and the same gay bathhouses, and there's just no way beyond that, you know? They are what they are. They're scumbag.
Big R.
You know, and if you look really close in the Constitution that we used to have, we're under United States Code now, and they contradict each other, so they can't exist together. There has to be one or the other, and we're currently under the United States Code, which is corporate policy, and corporate policy is made into law because senators have stepped to the side and let these purported non-profits that make enormous profits, they're the ones that make the law by putting forth corporate policy. You know, Sharia law is in this country right now. If you don't believe it, look at everybody wearing masks. That's Sharia law. Okay? Wish I could give you better news and a better outcome, but that's the reality of it. You know, the United States Constitution says that there is no one who has a official title in their name can serve as a politician. I wonder how many people who have Esquires in front of their name are in office right now. Esquire is loyalty to the Queen of England, okay? And the Bar Association, anytime you talk to any government employee about lawsuits or anything like that, the first thing you want to do is promote the Bar Association, okay? The Bar Association is not a government entity. It is a private corporation. It trades on the stock market, and Bar stands for British Accreditation Registry. And it is a branch of the Crown Bar of England. And it has this fealty to the Queen of England. At one point I actually thought that, that was a branch of the government and that every lawyer belonged to the bar, but thank God only about 30% of every lawyer in the country actually belongs to the Bar Association. And the ones that do are just total scumbags, okay? And everybody working in the judiciary right now are cognizant. They're judicially cognizant that they're participating in fraud. So every one of them by all means, should be tried for treason. They're guilty of sedition, and they're guilty of treason for being a part of the war against we the people. And that also is defined in the common law provisions of the Constitution. You know, you always hear everybody talking about the First and Second and Fourth Amendment, but you'll never hear anybody talking about the Sixth Amendment. I think everybody needs to start looking at the Sixth Amendment and look at the rest of the amendments there, and look up constitutional, common law provisions, okay? Because common law is where the people should be in the court. They shouldn't be treated like pieces of property and being tried in a commercial courtroom, okay? Because that's what's going on. When you're born, your straw man becomes alive after the state registrar signs your birth certificate 5 to 7 days later, and your straw man is 7 days younger than you are, and he's living the life right behind you, and he is the one that gets you in a whole bunch of trouble. Okay, so you need to learn how to get away from your straw man. It's a long process. It's getting easier because now they have ways at the state level to repudiate your citizenship to the United States. When you become a United States citizen, you are a citizen of a foreign country. And that's why these Democrats are trying so hard to get Washington, D.C. as the 52nd state, because they want to sneak it in there. Okay, it's not, it never has been since this country formed. Washington, D.C. has never been a part of the United States. All of the zip codes within Washington, D.C. are how the Queen of England, how the British and the monarchy we borrowed the money from to finance the Revolutionary War. That's how they get their money back, because all commerce goes through zip codes. Without zip code, there's no commerce. So there's so much out there that so many people don't have any idea how things work. And I've dedicated my life to learning every bit of it, so I can expose as much of it as I can. Because they made the mistake of illegally stealing 9 years of my life. They tried to turn a $100 bill into $10,000, and they didn't get a cent of that money. But they did get they got 4 years of my life in prison and then 5 years of probation afterwards. So they stole 9 years of my life because the Monroe County, Florida judiciary ran a scam military tribunal where the state attorney's office prosecuted the case, and my lawyer allowed the plaintiff in the case to perjure themselves, saying they'd never tried to kill themselves, and the prosecutor withheld the exculpatory evidence that they had Baker acted her 4 times in order to put me in prison so they could make money, because the crime victim advocate pays the victim any monetary help. The statute in 688, I think it is, or 633 Florida statute says that whoever is found guilty of a crime and the crime victim advocate is given any monetary help to, there's a fine to be imposed of $10,000. So the plaintiff in my case missed a day's work because she broke her hand and the telephone on my face, and missed a day's work. So they gave her a $100 bill and tried to turn that into 10 grand. And I wish I could find some return on my money like that. Then I'd be able to afford a scumbag lawyer and get out of cases like that. You need to learn how to administer your public servants, because all they are serve ants. They work for you. You know, when I found out that the Child Support Enforcement Agency had illegally garnished my disability, and I sent in a demand for discovery, and you know the clerk of court and family courts in Dayton, Ohio, sent it back. Oh, we're processing your records request. I'm like, that wasn't a request, that was a demand. You need to learn how to administer to your public servants, because they work for you, and it's time to start making these people be accountable for their criminal actions. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this everywhere. People need to learn this stuff, and the only way they're going to learn it is that if they hear it from somebody who's gone through it. And believe me, I've gone through it. I'm tired of it. So, I'm downtown filing a response to a fraud upon the court eviction, and the county recorder's office is closed. There's nobody at the county municipal building doing any business. There's nobody doing any business downtown except for Dayton police and more Dayton police. There we go. We got Dayton police running. Oh, 3 of them. Yeah, we got 3 of them right in that shot. You can't even get no better than that. You've got parking enforcement running around. You've got the municipal court evictions going forward April 1st, 2020. They opened back up for business because Governor Mike DeWine did nothing for the Ohio people. Nothing. Just like the county commissioners do in this town. They do nothing. They take home these enormous paychecks and they do nothing for the people. And we're tired of it. As you can tell, I'm driving down the road and I'm not talking into the camera. I'm just driving because I don't want to give any revenuers any reason to pull me over and check my papers. But I was trying to conduct some business at the county municipal building, but it seems that the county commissioners are still on vacation, and the county recorder's office and other businesses downtown where citizens can conduct business are all closed down. But as you can see in one of the other videos I posted today, the police are out in full force everywhere. I mean, everywhere you turn. In the one shot in the background, you could actually see 3 cops drive right through the shot in the middle of this video that I shared. I mean, you can't even script that kind of shit. And there goes a cop right there. I passed meter readers. There's meter readers doing business downtown. All of the restaurants are closed. All the bars are closed. I come through the Oregon district and the dirty bookstores are open. So all the tattoo guys aren't making any money, but the pervert industry's wide open. I guess we know where the county commissioners are. They're in the back booth hanging out of the glory hole in the dirty bookstore. Yeah, that's what I fucking said. Welcome to episode 2 of the Truth Whisperer series, hashtag Enough is Enough. I moved back to Ohio in 2018, the day of Hurricane Michael. And I went through 4 slumlord landlords in a row. So this is a story about the incompetency of the chief law enforcement officer in the state of Ohio, the Attorney General, who is responsible for consumer protection in this state. And the fact that there is a slumlord epidemic in the state of Ohio, and code enforcement violations are being ignored and all of that stuff, that is a indicator of the extreme failure of that office to protect consumers, specifically those who have no money and can't protect themselves. So that's what it boils down to. This is more of the war on the poor by the corporation pretending to be a government. My third landlord did not tell me that the toilet was leaking in the crawl space and had been for months before I signed a lease and moved in. So after almost a year of code enforcement trying to get him to make the repairs, they finally just gave me a 7-day notice to vacate the premises because they condemned it. Which, that sent me to the HUD office in Xenia, where I saw a sign that said HUD VASH, homelessness prevention and homelessness assistance. So I took down the number, went home and called it, went down to the Dayton VA and filled out the paperwork, and ended up getting interviewed for acceptance. And they told me that I qualified, but I needed to put my stuff in storage and put my dog in a shelter and crawl into a cot in some building that they have where they make money off of people being in the cot, like they do in prison. They put people in prison and they make money off of those beds. Well, they were trying to do the same thing there. I didn't have time to argue with them because I had 7 days to find a place to go. So I talked to the St. Vincent de Paul Veterans and Family First people, and they put me in touch with Midwest Acquisition and Property Management, LLC. And they have been doing business with them for a while. And when we went and looked at the place, it was a mess. It needed a lot of things fixed there. And before I signed the lease, when I was there to sign the lease, the representative assured me that those projects would be finished and the property would be cleaned up by the time I moved up in 2 weeks. Because the code enforcement ended up giving me over 12 days to stay there because they understood the situation. It wasn't my fault. Thank you, Xenia Code Enforcement. But I moved in after I cleaned up and made it livable. And also at that signing of the lease, they failed to disclose that there were 16 code enforcement violations at that time. And one of those code enforcement violations was that the basement steps were loose and there was no handrail. And within 2 weeks, the basement steps had collapsed, causing me to fall and break my wrist. And right after that, I notified the CEO of the company, Mr. Bradley Millward, and they commenced on a non-stop campaign of harassment for nearly a year, including an eviction. And I made the Ohio Real Estate Licensing Division investigator aware of every single incident along the way. And I also let the Attorney General know that I was about to be unlawfully evicted by a company that had no license to conduct such a transaction. Believe this, court proceedings are transactions because it's all about the money. It's not about justice. It's all about money. And they did nothing. Nobody did anything from those two agencies. Those two consumer protection agencies sat by and watched a disabled veteran become another statistic. Period. I gave them the evidence when Midwest Acquisition, who hired a collection agency, and the collection agency, Hunter Warfield, executed an email thread hijacker and seized control of my email account, which is highly illegal. And the thing about it is the collection company doesn't have a final order because I just got the court order, the notification the other day to appear next month for the final decision on cause 2 of the eviction, which is on how much I owe Midwest Acquisition. So the Attorney General and the Ohio State Licensing Division are probably going to just sit there on their butts like they did the last time and let this unlawful transaction transpire next month. Because I'll go there by myself and they'll allow that unlawful real estate transaction to transpire and do nothing about it. I keep asking them. That crooked beam right there is where all of the problems start, where the foundation is cracking, where the steps came off of the wall here, and you can see that the crack goes all the way up the steps, all the way to this doorway, both sides of the doorway, all the way through the apartment. Comes out into this area, all the way up the steps. Look at my lovely neighbor's mess. There's where the apartment upstairs is getting ready to fall in to the downstairs apartment. So, anyways, one day all of a sudden I go to the bank and my deposit is short, big time, you know. So I called the Social Security people to ask them what was going on. Oh yeah, boy, it's student loan debt. You know, it was a 31-year-old student loan debt that just magically appeared out of nowhere, and I was like, well, that's not legal, and he's like, yes, it is. I'm like, well, no, it isn't. For one thing, I shouldn't be finding that out at the bank, okay? That should have come out 30 days ahead of time by law. I know collections law, okay? So, inadvertently, I didn't know that I was creating a retaliatory campaign against myself, because these people were making $28,000 typographical errors, $7,000 and $4,000 typographical errors that take years to get fixed. Okay, so they put me in a hole and started shoveling in the dirt. So, my state representative there in Lake County, Florida, was Jennifer Sullivan, and she didn't know what was going on. So she sent me to the office of Ron DeSantis, congressman, and I couldn't get nobody to answer the phone over at the Lake County Social Security office. So she got in touch with them, and I started talking to Rebecca Price, the technical expert. First time I talked to her, she's announced, I'm Rebecca Price, I'm the technical expert. I'm like, well, I think you might be a little overrated there, you know. But anyways, so by the time Ron DeSantis' office got my this unlawful garnishment stopped, I was homeless. I've been homeless for 4 months. There's another component to this. I put $1,750 in escrow and fought this bullshit eviction, and I'm waiting for the notice to come, you know, from the clerk of court, a certified notification to appear at the hearing. But instead, I have the sheriff knocking on my door 7 o'clock in the morning saying, you got 24 hours to get the fuck out. So I went to court, and they threw me out, okay? We'd already been to mediation and all this stuff, and they threw me out and gave that piece of shit landlord my $1,750. Threw me on the street with nothing. And you know, now that the judge wasn't presiding over the case, I went back to her office. I said, what the hell is this, And she said, well, we've been telling these people that they need to fix this law. Here, talk to Ron DeSantis and tell him. So the judge put me right on the phone with Ron DeSantis. And I talked to him. I said, what the hell is this? The landlord gets to send you the notice, and all they got to do is show up to court and say, well, I don't know why he's not here. I sent him the notice. And Ron DeSantis said, oh, well, I'm running for governor. As soon as I get in there, I'm going to fix that. Bullshit. It's the same fucking way it is right now. Okay? Ron DeSantis doesn't give a fuck about you. Like no politician gives a fuck about you. Okay? It's all about lining their pockets from yours. So, I created these hashtags, when I found out they were stealing my disability unlawfully for 16 years. I was paying double child support to two different people for the same child for 16 years and didn't even know it. And I've created hashtag tell 5 people. Tell 5 people to tell 5 people. And I was smashing the judge and the county commissioners with that for 3 years, but they were ignoring me because I was 1,000 miles away. So when I came to back to Ohio, I went to a county commission meeting. And when I walked in, I filled out a request to speak and gave it to the recorder, the secretary, who records the minutes and all that stuff. And when they were done spending everybody's tax dollars on private projects and shit like that, the secretary hands Debbie Lieberman, the county commissioner, my request to speak. And she goes, oh, somebody from the community wants to speak today. Oh, fuck. You can see everybody up there get on the edge of their seat because I've been emailing them and leaving phone messages and wallpapering the internet with this shit for 3 years. And now here it is, getting ready to smash them in the face. So as I walk up to the podium, I had this big folder in my hand. And I said, I can tell by the look on everybody's face up there that you can tell that I'm here today to talk to you about hashtag tell 5 people. Blah, 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 And Debbie Lieberman trying to act like she's just now hearing from this. And after I finished and sat down, I'm just hearing about this. I'm like, can I answer to any of this? Yeah, sure. I said, I have been wallpapering your social media for 3 years. You didn't just find out about this today, So I get home and all these notices, emails and all this stuff, and phone messages. Oh, we're going to look into this. We're going to get you your money back. So I sent Debbie an email. Hey, how long is this going to take? Oh, it's taking 1 week. So 3 weeks later, I went back down to their meeting, and I walked in, and Debbie's like, so what will we do for you today, Mr. Faulkner? I said, well, I have owned several businesses in my lifetime. I've never gotten free advertising from the government. She said, what are you talking about? I said, well, anytime you talk about the law or lawsuits or anything anywhere near a government employee, they want to refer you to the Bar Association. That's a private company, They get free advertising at every desk in America that the government runs, So I want to use your airtime. I looked right at the camera and said, I want to use your airtime and announce that I'm running for county commissioner next election cycle, and I'm going to run on an anti-corruption platform, and I'm going to win on their record. Boy, you talk about shitting. Get home, same shit, more promises, blah, blah. We're going to, Tom's looking at, and I called her, I either called her or emailed her and asked her if there's going to be any stipulation, because I had created this affidavit of standing jurisdiction and status and filed it on the face of the record, which says you cannot take my rights away from me. She already had that in her possession. Oh, no, there's no stipulation. So 3 more weeks go by, and I go down there, and Debbie's like, what can we do for you today, Mr. Faulkner? all badass and shit, you know. And I'm like, I walked her right into the trick bag. I said, well, I just want to know why it is that you let Tom, the auditor, Vicky from Child Support Enforcement, and Patricia from the Family Law Court lie right to your face. And she's played right into it. Yeah, I know. And I'm like, well, I know why. Yeah, I figured out why. She's like, why is that? I said, because you're a big fat liar too. And she lost her shit, man. She's like, Tom, is there anything we can do to stop this from happening? 3 hours later, after I signed, after they made me sign a worthless stipulation paper saying I would never have to come, I'd never be able to come after them again, I walked out there with all my money. But anyway, you know, I started posting that on YouTube and Facebook and everything, and again, what was going on, I kept track and doing that, and I got my Facebook account deleted. Debbie Lieberman, County Commissioners, did that, you know. And they changed the speaking minutes from 15 to 5 down there. They erased all that stuff from the social media, which the Supreme Court ruled that's unlawful. But, you know, these people are not living by the law. We have no Constitution. We're under the United States Code, period. So I've created another Facebook page, and then I was, you know, I got YouTube gave me copyright claims on music that I had written and recorded. And it's on 16 of them. So, and I knew what it was about. It was about all this court success and all this attacking all these politicians and elected officials, you know, selected officials. So I started erasing all that stuff. I took all of my original music off of YouTube, and I just left a couple, you know, videos of me playing cover tunes and stuff like that on there, and then I made a video that talks about how YouTube has been ripping off musicians and artists for years, and exactly what they were doing to me, you know. So YouTube and Google the same. Google locked my my Gmail, locked my Google account up, which locked up my YouTube channel. But and they erased that video about them, you know. And then there's a video about the apartment the garbage apartment that I was being evicted from. That's about to fall in on itself. They left that video. It shows up on my new channel. Okay, so they know that they're connected and all that shit. So, you know, I don't miss a thing. Okay, they blocked me out of my own YouTube. I had to create another YouTube and another Gmail so I could look at my old shit. You know, every bit of this video presentation you're about to see happened at the beginning and throughout the pandemic. You know, right when it started, and I contacted the Public Health Department in Dayton about the apartment upstairs, but you're going to see what condition the apartment building is in. The upstairs toilet was leaking into my kitchen sink, and nobody from the health department came by, the county commissioners, nobody did a damn thing, okay? They sat by and watched me get unlawfully evicted. Welcome to episode 2 of the Truth Whisperer series, #Enough is Enough. I moved back to Ohio in 2018, the day of Hurricane Michael, and I went through 4 slumlord landlords in a row. So this is a story about the incompetency of the chief law enforcement officer in the state of Ohio, the Attorney General, who is responsible for consumer protection in this state. And the fact that there is a slumlord epidemic in the state of Ohio and code enforcement violations are being ignored and all of that stuff, that is an indicator of the extreme failure of that office to protect consumers, specifically those who have no money and can't protect themselves. So that's what it boils down to. This is more of the war on the poor by the corporation pretending to be a government. My third landlord did not tell me that the toilet was leaking in the crawl space and had been for months before I signed a lease and moved in. So after almost a year of code enforcement trying to get him to make the repairs, they finally just gave me a notice, a 7-day notice to vacate the premises because they condemned it. Which, you know, that sent me to the HUD office in Xenia, where I saw a sign that said HUD VASH Homelessness Prevention and Homelessness Assistance. So I took down the number, went home and called it, went down to the Dayton VA and filled out the paperwork, and ended up getting interviewed for acceptance. And they told me that I qualified, but I needed to put my stuff in storage and put my dog in a shelter and crawl into a cot in some building that they have where they make money off of people being in the cot, like they do in prison. You know, they put people in prison and they make money off of those beds. Well, they were trying to do the same thing there. I didn't have time to argue with them because I had 7 days to find a place to go. So I talked to the St. Vincent de Paul Veterans and Family First people, and they put me in touch with Midwest Acquisition and Property Management, LLC. And they have been doing business with them for a while. And when we went and looked at the place, it was a mess. It needed a lot of things fixed there. And before I signed the lease, when I was there to sign the lease, the representative assured me that those projects would be finished and the property would be cleaned up by the time I moved up in 2 weeks. Because the code enforcement ended up giving me over 12 days to stay there because they understood the situation. It wasn't my fault. Thank you, Xenia Code Enforcement. But I moved in after I cleaned up and made it livable. And also at that signing of the lease, they failed to disclose that there were 16 code enforcement violations at that time. And one of those code enforcement violations was that the basement steps were loose and there was no handrail. And within 2 weeks, the basement steps had collapsed, causing me to fall and break my wrist. And right after that, I notified the CEO of the company, Mr. Bradley Millward, and they commenced on a non-stop campaign of harassment for nearly a year, including an eviction. And I made the Ohio Real Estate Licensing Division investigator aware of every single incident along the way. And I also let the Attorney General know that I was about to be unlawfully evicted by a company that had no license to conduct such a transaction. Believe this, court proceedings are transactions because it's all about the money. It's not about justice. It's all about money. And they did nothing. Nobody did anything from those two agencies. Those two consumer protection agencies sat by and watched a disabled veteran become another statistic. Period. I gave them the evidence when Midwest Acquisition, who hired a collection agency, and the collection agency, Hunter Warfield, executed an email thread hijacker and seized control of my email account, which is highly illegal. And the thing about it is the collection company doesn't have a final order, because I just got the court order, the notification the other day to appear next month for the final decision on cause 2 of the eviction, which is on how much I owe Midwest Acquisition. So the Attorney General and the Ohio State Licensing Division are probably going to just sit there on their butts like they did the last time and let this unlawful transaction transpire next month. Because I'll go there by myself and they'll allow that unlawful real estate transaction to transpire and do nothing about it. I keep asking them. That crooked beam right there is where all of the problems start, where the foundation is cracking, where the steps came off of the wall here, and you can see that the crack goes all the way up the steps, all the way to this doorway, both sides of the doorway, all the way through the apartment. Comes out into this area, all the way up the steps. Look at my lovely neighbor's mess. There's where the apartment upstairs is getting ready to fall in to the downstairs apartment. That crooked beam right there is where all of the problems start, where the foundation is cracking, where the steps came off of the wall here, and you can see that the crack goes all the way up the steps, all the way to this doorway, both sides of the doorway, all the way through the apartment. Comes out into this area, all the way up the steps. Look at my lovely neighbor's mess. There's where the apartment upstairs is getting ready to fall in to the downstairs apartment. When we finally had the first hearing on this eviction from this place that should have already been condemned, I asked the magistrate, to verify what jurisdiction she was operating under, whether it was United States Code or the United States Constitution, and she didn't understand what I was saying, what I wanted for it. I'm like, well, so I know how to defend myself, and she actually said none of that mattered in her courtroom. So she told me to go ahead and start with my side of the story, and as soon as I opened my mouth to say anything, the attorney that brought the case against me, the eviction, he said objection, and she said sustained. I mean, I hadn't even said anything yet. How in the hell was she sustaining? How was he objecting? What was he objecting to? And how was she sustaining something on no grounds? And she said, go ahead. I'm like, I'm done. She goes, you're done here? I said, yeah, you guys already decided this before we got here today. So she went ahead and, gave them the property back, which you've seen what the property looks like. They were helping me out, actually. But they're still renting that piece of property to this date. So I followed the secretary, the court reporter, over to her office and asked her how much for a copy of that transcript, and she told me it was $105. So I gave her the money, told her to call me when she was done. I picked it up and held on to it for
I still got it, but I held on to it for about a month before I seen that that magistrate was running for judge. And, she was on Facebook and all that stuff, and I'm like, I put a copy of that transcript up there where she talked about the United States Code and the Constitution don't mean anything in her courtroom. And I was like, so this is her courtroom? I thought it was the people's courtroom, So she dropped out of the race for judge the first day. So I moved into another place, and all of a sudden I had I got an email, and when I opened it, it was the email thread hijacker, and it was this company, Hunter Warfield, out of Tampa, Florida, and they were impersonating the Ohio insurance company, your insurance office, the government office, and it seized my email. I couldn't do anything until I called these people. So I called them, and I said, listen, y'all better turn loose of my email, or I'm gonna come down there and fucking kill everybody in that office. It's just illegal, crazy. So they released my email, and as soon as they did, I got 16 credit breach notifications from Equifax and TransUnion, where these people had tried to attach a $3,200 garnishment against my a judgment against my credit, and we hadn't even been to court for the second, for the second part where they determine if you got to pay any money or not, So I filed a complaint with our Attorney General and the Florida State Attorney General, because it happened there in Tampa, and I sent it to the office of Governor Ron DeSantis, and they ignored it. Everybody ignored it, okay? So, but they didn't get that stuff on my credit because I got my credit protected, so and I turned all this over because this company, Midwest Property Acquisition and Management Company, they were under investigation by the Ohio State Real Estate Commission for conducting real estate transactions without a license, so when it was all over with, the licensing division of real estate division, they slapped them on the wrist, and didn't do nothing to them. And same thing with Ron DeSantis and their attorney general and ours. Nobody did shit because they don't give a fuck about veterans, But anyways, it did have all effect on the case and everything, because when we finally went back for the hearing on the money part of that eviction, when I walked in, the magistrate goes, "Are you Don Faulkner?" I said, "Yep." She goes, "Are you ready to drop this case?" I'm like, "I didn't bring the case. They did, She goes, "I know, but are you ready to drop the case?" And I'm like, "Well, I came here 2 days ago for the hearing, and you guys didn't bother even tell me it was postponed for 2 days. I got a traffic ticket trying to figure out what was going on in here." And their attorney jumped up, grabbed out his wallet and handed me $50 bill and said, "That ought to pay for your traffic ticket. Are you ready to drop this case?" I'm like, I made him sweat it out for a minute. Because I had bashed him up with the Ethics Commission. When you damage the re-electability of a politician, that's how you apply pressure. You can't do it from within because there is no within. They're all criminals. There's not a part of the corporation, whether it's municipal or federal, that's not criminal. Okay, the judiciary is corrupt from top to bottom, from the janitor to the Supreme Court. So, anyways, And they violate all. They're, when you're on Section 8 and HUD, it's unlawful for the landlord to try to request anything above what you're supposed to be paying. So, and they don't care. HUD don't care. Trump's Ben Carson don't care. None of them people care. The Washington Veterans Hotline, that's a joke. That executive order that Trump supposedly signed for the VA, you could get the VA people in trouble if they were mistreating you. Bullshit. I guarantee you, there's not a veteran out there that can say that they actually got anything out of that hotline. And the VA is still killing people with the jab today. Let that sink in. So, I'm downtown filing a response to a fraud upon the court eviction, and the county recorder's office is closed. There's nobody at the county municipal building doing any business. There's nobody doing any business downtown except for Dayton police and more Dayton police. There we go. We got Dayton police running. Oh, 3 of them. Yeah, we got 3 of them right in that shot. You can't even get no better than that. You've got parking enforcement running around. You've got the municipal court evictions going forward April 1st, 2020. They opened back up for business because Governor Mike DeWine did nothing for the Ohio people. Nothing. Just like the county commissioners do in this town, they do nothing. They take home these enormous paychecks and they do nothing for the people. And we're tired of it. I'm out here walking the other day and this lid's missing. I look up and parking enforcement is out here putting tickets on vehicles in this neighborhood. You've got the Montgomery County courthouses not enforcing federal regulation or following laws when it comes to evictions. They were evicting people during a pandemic. These people running this country have their priorities completely upside down. They're at war with the people in this county. And it's time the county stood up. The residents in this county. You're paying taxes for what? So you can get harassed by parking enforcement as you fall out into one of their manhole covers? I want to talk to you about the landlord problem and the county administration problem that we have in Montgomery County. Before I got involved with the VA, I had 1 eviction on my record. I'm 63 years old. Now I've got 3 more evictions. Okay, St. Vincent de Paul Veterans Family Services put me in a apartment that had 16 code enforcement violations that weren't disclosed when I signed the lease. Within 2 weeks, the basement steps collapsed and I broke my arm. And then the landlord commenced a nonstop campaign of retaliation, which everybody knew about. The St. Vincent de Paul Family Veterans Services, people knew about it. The people out at the Dayton VA Medical Center, HUD-VASH, knew about it because they're the ones that told me that I could get in the HUD-VASH program if I was homeless. when I went there, I went to Xenia and saw the HUD office. They had a sign up there that said homelessness prevention and homelessness assistance, not homelessness creation. But that's what it is, ultimately. So anyways, that first landlord kept my rent at Christmas time, filed for non-payment of rent, and mailed my check back a month later and evicted me. In the middle of it was in the beginning of the pandemic. Yeah. They were throwing families and veterans in the streets at the beginning of the pandemic. Fast forward to I finally get in. I go, I was getting, the guy out in the reason I got on the VA stuff is because the landlord out in Xenia, some Russian guy, he refused to repair the toilet that was leaking in the crawl space under the house. And he tried to sue me, and I ended up suing him and winning. But so fast forward to Midwest Acquisition and Property Management, LLC. They're scumbags. The place is still for rent over there in Heaton Avenue, and that place was getting ready to fall into the basement when they threw me out of there. The videos are on my YouTube channel. So they evicted me in the pandemic. I get on the HUD Vash thing, and the place that they put me in out in Drexel, the place failed the inspection. This is one of the biggest problems right here. It failed the inspection, and they give the guy 30 days to make the repairs. He didn't do it. So the Public Housing Authority, Greater Dayton Premier Management, they abate their portion of the rent, okay? But there's a federal regulation written right into the public housing contract, 24 CFR 983.353, that says the landlord cannot ask for another penny more than the Public Housing Authority's approved amount for the family or the tenant. So they abate their payment. I kept my rent payment current. The landlord filed for non-payment of rent eviction, and I went out to that courthouse out there in New Lebanon with Judge Pierges. What a dirtbag that guy is. He there was a magistrate, and 4 times they had the address wrong. I mean, that right there made them start over again. And finally, the magistrate said, "Listen, Mr. Faulkner, this ain't going to happen like this next time." And he wasn't lying. I did it by the book. And they still hadn't corrected the address. If the address is spelled wrong, it's not like the post office listed, they have to start over. Not this time. Matter of fact, Judge Pierges let that landlord hand me my check back in court, which proved what I was saying was right. The HUD Vash team out of the Dayton VA Medical Center did nothing. The Public Housing Authority did nothing. Let me go to court, get evicted by myself. It wasn't my fault. My rent was paid. So, and legal aid wouldn't help. Nobody would do shit. County commissioners, everybody knew. The attorney general for the state knew. So, I had to put my stuff in storage. Every time I put my stuff in storage, shit gets damaged, lost, you know, and I have to pay for the storage. You know, even though it didn't happen, it's not my fault or anything. So they get me into another place over a couple blocks from here, and it was great when it first started out. But the landlord, who are two Dayton police officers, retiring at the time, they were doing a scam bed bug treatment. They were going from there's 18 apartments in this complex. They were doing one at a time and being quiet about it. They did did his apartment, charged him $500. And then they went to the neighbor next to me, and I called him and said, hey man, those bugs are coming over here. And Becky Roberts, Detective Becky Roberts, says, I'm gonna call the exterminator and I'll get right back with you. She didn't get right back to me. She sent me an email later that night saying, we'll be over there tomorrow and tell you what the plan is, right? So the plan was they were going to heat treat my apartment and put me on the payment plan. And I told them, I'm not going on a payment plan. It's unlawful. And you're not doing the treatments right. HUD guidelines for extermination of bed bugs in a multi-unit complex, you do them all. You don't just do one and chase the bugs from one place to another. Well, that caused this big ruckus. They stole my shed from me. They were threatening to have me thrown in jail. Rod Roberts was raging at my door. He's a roid rager. So, and I've had to throw him out of my place 3 times, physically. So, I mean, for 200 and some days, the VA people and the Public Housing Authority people and the county commissioners, Debbie Lieberman, Judy Dodge, and Carolyn Rice, all knew that I was going through hell campaign retaliation. I mean, and when they're coming at the door getting violent like that, it becomes extortion. Okay, I reported all this to internal affairs at the Dayton Police Department. They did nothing, and the chief of police swept it all under the rug. I contacted Dayton, the mayor, Mims. None of these people, they don't care about you. They don't care about the people at all. I mean, you can look at our streets and look at this city and see they don't give a damn about their voters. So anyways, I lived in my truck for 90 days. Starting on January 1st of this year, it was below freezing the first 30 some days. And they would put me in a motel. They wouldn't do nothing. They weren't doing nothing for me. And that wasn't my fault. They knew it wasn't my fault. But this time, because the way the other 2 evictions went, I put my money in, paid my rent, and so I didn't pay the rent this time. I wasn't going to waste my time because I was going to be thrown out anyways. These people are supposed to be enforcing 24 CFR 983.353. But they're not. They've enforced it if you're a tenant and you don't hold up your end, but they don't hold the landlords accountable for anything. I've had some real good referrals, let me tell you. Woo! Had one referral where they pocketed my background check money twice. So I get in over here where I'm at now, and the paperwork had to be redone 3 times. And all 3 times, I'm like, listen, I don't know who did the math on this, but the math's not right, okay? Because my income went down a little bit. The rent only went up $100. But my portion of the rent went up 85%. I mean, $160 or something like that. Yeah, $160, at least that much. And it went from $231 to $404. So nobody was listening. Nobody would listen. So I finally went down there and talked to Carrie Ann Muhammad, who was doing Annie Roper got fired. I don't know if it was because of me or what, but she was messing up big time. But so Carrie Ann is doing Annie Roper's caseload, and she's doing my recertification, all this stuff, and I went down there because that the money wasn't right, the numbers weren't right, you know. And she says, well, right now they're doing an audit of your account right now somewhere in this building. I don't know where they're at, but they're working on it right now. And I made her say 3 times before I left. I said, you're going to let me know what the outcome is, right? It's very important, you know. Yes, I will. She never did get a hold of me. So I emailed her and I told her, I'm like, you know, you're acting just like Annie Roper, and told me you're going to give me the emails. You're going to give me email as soon as the results came in, and all this stuff. And I told her, I said, I thought we were starting to get on the same page, you know, but everything you said would happen in our meeting didn't happen. You know. And she emails me and says, I'm not leasing. I'm not your caseworker. I was helping you. Reach out to the HCV supervisor. She was my caseworker. Nobody notified me that she wasn't my caseworker. And when I went in there to talk to her that day, the receptionist didn't say, she's not your caseworker. She didn't say nothing. She was acting like my caseworker in there. So anyways, so I emailed Miss Crawford, who is the HCV supervisor. And she wouldn't answer me. You know, I wanted to, I responded to Carrie Ann. I'm like, you weren't helping me because that would have gone like this. When I asked to see you, the receptionist or yourself could have told me I was no longer your client and pointed me to a new caseworker. Or when I explained my concerns about how my new place being only $100 per month more and my portion was doubled, and said my case was being audited in another office right then. If you were truly helping me, you would have contacted me with the results of that audit like you said you would. I made you repeat that 3 times. So anyways, and I said, I want to see the math that was used. I want to see whose math it was, who did it. And I still don't have a copy of the voucher or the lease. So, you know, I've been here for about 4 months now. I still don't have any paperwork. Been paying. They still don't got the math right. I don't believe it might be, but sure, I don't think so. But anyways, I can't get anybody to cooperate with me. I've asked for. I've demanded my lease, a copy of the voucher, a copy of the math each time it changed. I want to see why I was paying more than I was supposed to. And I want to know that the math is right now. I want to know what they use for income for me and all that stuff. I have a right to see that stuff, you know. And I've been waiting for about 7 days for Jennifer Heapy, the main person over there at Greater Dayton Premier Management. I emailed her this morning and said, hey, I really would appreciate it if you would give me an update and let me know, what, if any of that stuff I requested you're going to give me, because I don't know. These people they're above the law. There's some shady folks. But anyways, she didn't call me today. So, I don't know. My refrigerator's empty. I got change in my pocket. Maybe $1 in the bank. County commissioners. I went to another county commission meeting right before the day before I got evicted. And they were going to help me, right? Judy Dodges, somebody was supposed to help me. Never called. Empty promises. Out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. So I don't know how these people keep getting elected with their terrible records. You guys must love having crappy administration, driving around the streets that beat the tires off of and the suspension off of your vehicle, if you've even got one. Probably ain't got a job either. Probably homeless. There's this lack of enforcement of that federal regulation has put. I would like to know the actual statistic of how many families and veterans have been evicted while their rent was paid, while their portion of the rent was paid. We need to get better representatives in these offices. People that represent us. Not people that have offices of strategic initiatives that cater to non-tax paying violent criminals, putting them right back out on the street again. With good, honest people, throwing us all out in the street. I was going to go to the county commission meeting today. But I'm like, why waste my time? You get sick of being lied to, and everybody else should be too. Look at the money they spent whining and dining NATO coming to town. You know how many people they could have housed with that money? You know what they could have done to the streets with that money? The local news stations, newspapers, they're all gatekeepers. They've all had all this information too. WHIO, WDTN, and WKEF. They've all had, well, it's not WKTF anymore, or KEF, it's Dayton 24/7. They've had all this information, and they did nothing with it. They don't care. They're gatekeepers of the truth. They're the protectors of these criminals running the government. Alleged criminals. They haven't been convicted yet because you can't get anybody to do their job. Ask yourself why there is no lawyers as whistleblowers. Why they're not helping anyone. They're the front line of the war against the people. was it that character in that Shakespeare story? I'm not going to misquote it, but he says he had a valuable thing to say about the lawyers. The first thing that really needs to be done with the judiciary is it needs to have every law that has only one purpose, and that's generating revenue. Those laws need to be erased. They serve no purpose. There's no greater good in making these people rich while we suffer. I'm not going to go into that, but that Justice Department is the main problem, because there is no justice in the judiciary. There's only revenue generation. You've got order takers enforcing unjust laws. They took an oath, and they have a responsibility to disobey unjust laws. Yeah. You guys need to stop voting for these dirtbags who do nothing for the people. They just serve themselves. All right? Yeah, I'm here. Come on, buddy. We got business to take care of. Go lay down. Excuse me. Go lay down. How are you doing?
All right. So she gave your recertification packet.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about a couple of things before we get going here.
Hey, buddy.
You know that I contacted the HUD people, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of the EPA, and all that stuff. I contacted what's her name, Annie Roper over there at the Public Housing Authority. I contacted the police department, the diversion, the mediation people, and I gave them all this information about how I was scared for my life over these people, the way they're acting and all that stuff, right? You remember all that, right?
Yes.
So, and yesterday, Rod and Becky came over here. I'm trying to leave, get out of here, because I don't want to talk to them. They confronted me in the parking lot, threatening to have me arrested if I don't give them my shed, threatening to cut the lock off of my shed and throw me in jail, and all that shit. So, I gave them my shed. What am I going to do? What am I going to do?
What do you mean you gave them your stuff?
I gave them my shed. You know that's my shed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know that's my shed. I have a receipt for it. You remember when I got it. And if you remember, I told you that they gave me these two little sheds out here, told me I could do whatever I wanted with them. So then they're out here threatening to have me thrown in jail and all this shit yesterday. And the guy down here, Jamie down in Apartment 3, he witnessed the entire thing. So they're threatening to withdraw this. They can't withdraw this now. I've already got the packet and all that stuff. They're threatening to withdraw and contact you. We're going to withdraw our offer and all this crap. These people are insane. And the next time that they come here and threaten me, the way that they've threatened me and putting my life in danger, it is going to be the last time. Because I'm going to defend myself. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I don't understand.
Well, these people are coming here with the guy next door with his gun and all the shit they were doing outside here. Listen, they're trying to say that, I violated my lease, and the minute, and while, let me see if I can find this real quick. Somewhere I've got it. The notice, there was a notice from the, Department of Agriculture guy where he did an inspection. When she was trying to do an inspection here, there was a notice on the door where he had already done the inspection. Anyways, I'd have to look and find it, but anyways, there was a notice from the inspector to Becky on that door saying that he'd inspected this place, okay? So I didn't violate any freaking, I didn't violate anything. They'd already inspected it. A government official inspected this apartment, okay? These people are in retaliation against me, threatening to have me thrown in jail, coming to my door, screaming. You know for a fact that I have thrown him out of this apartment for 3 times for threatening me and fucking getting outrageously violent. I mean, violent in my apartment. I've had to throw that guy out of here.
So, I have 2 responses, or one's a question. One's, did you pay your rent for this month?
No.
So they will file an eviction if you don't.
Go ahead, and then I'll take all this evidence in there, and I will, literally, how many times I've told you?
No,
They can't win that.
I'm just stating that.
They can't win that,
If you don't pay your rent, you very much are.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead,
Okay.
go ahead, and then I'll present this.
I'm not arguing.
I know, but
I'm just
listen,
stating the
I already taught their lawyer once a lesson about this, okay?
So,
If they wanna go there,
one, I am sorry to hear that interaction happen.
well, I'm not gonna
yesterday.
put up with these, I'm not gonna put up them coming over here threatening me, you know, and backing up their vehicle in front of my shed, all violent acting, and grab their bolt cutters and tell me they're gonna have me thrown in jail if I call the police. Okay, alright. My life is in threat, so I'm gonna respond.
Why do you think they threatened to call the police?
Cause they said it. Right on their camera, right in front of Jamie, the witness.
I was just asking, why do you think they threatened to call the police?
Because they said if I called the police, they would have me arrested.
Okay, you weren't doing anything threatening towards them?
No.
Okay, that's why I'm asking.
I said, go ahead and cut that lock off of there. I dare you. If you call the police, we'll have your ass thrown in jail.
There's a lot of.
Terry. Okay, Don Faulkner. Good afternoon, Don.
Good afternoon.
Long time no see.
How y'all doing?
All right. I understand you're not doing all right, though. You've tagged me on a couple
I want
things.
to congratulate this veteran that you guys
Yeah,
recognized.
that was so
And
nice.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
I want to apologize to you guys too. First, I want to apologize for my appearance, and I want to apologize to you for my behavior back in 2017. I thank you for the outcome of that
It all
event.
worked out, didn't it?
Yes, ma'am. And I want to apologize for my recent behavior with the situation that's going on. Okay, my aggressive behavior is, it's kind of warranted. But anyways, I want to share something that's important for the for people that might be in the same situation. Because a lot of people don't know how things work. But when you're in a housing program and you have a contract and things like that, when they do a housing inspection, if the landlord fails and he doesn't recover in a timely fashion, the Public Housing Authority abates their payment. Okay, and in the contract it says it has provisions for what the tenant has to pay and what the landlord or the Public Housing Authority pays, and then and it says that the landlord is not allowed to ask for a penny above that. Okay, so what happens inadvertently is when that time period is up, that grace period is up, and the housing authority abates their payment, then the landlord can hold on to your rent check for a month while they file for eviction, and then and go to the court, and essentially they're asking for you to pay their portion of the rent, the public housing authority. If you keep your portion current and you go to that hearing, there should be somebody from the housing authority and what other representatives in the voucher program administration of that, they should be to helping you stop that, because it's federal regulation. It's in the public housing contract. Okay, so under 24 CFR 983353, that's where it's in the contract and it's in the regulation that that's not supposed to happen, but it does. And there's thousands of people in this community who've been unlawfully evicted. And as you guys know, I'm 2 days away from that. I apologize for my appearance, but I'm playing the part that I'm about to start playing. You know what I mean? So I would appreciate if you guys could, maybe look into that a little bit. I'm in a much better mindset now because people are starting to see and respond.
Okay.
So,
Well, so you've tagged me on Facebook, and I've tried to
I
understand.
have Facebook. I haven't had Facebook since I left
It
this.
said Don
council.
Faulkner. You did something. Well, you sent me something.
Not me. I don't have it. I haven't had it since you guys had the.
Somebody's using your name. Then it was the same issue, but what is the remedy that you're seeking besides not being evicted?
Well, I'm not going to be evicted because I am going to. I'm moving my stuff into storage, and I'm going to be on the streets. I'm homeless because I can't afford another unlawful eviction on my credit. So, I don't know what's going to happen, but I can't afford that on my record again. I've already went through one out in the municipal court out there in New Lebanon, and everyone knew about it. My rent was current, and unfortunately, fortunately, the judge is no longer on the bench, but he allowed the landlord to walk over and hand me the rent check. In the courtroom, and my rent was paid. So something's really got to be done here, because we need to get these people off our streets, and we need to protect our citizens and our veterans. I'm a third generation honorably discharged veteran of the United States military, and I'm on the HUD-VASH program at the Dayton VA. They all know about it. They don't even know what the federal regulation is governing their job.
You have talked to the VA.
Well, they all are aware of
Okay.
it. And what happens is they don't follow the regulation and protect you and let you go to court. They let this unlawful thing happen, and it's tragic. It's not just me,
Okay.
So thank you for your
Well,
time.
thank you, and
And thank you for
Jerry,
accepting not accepting, but
so-
let me make my apology.
no, you're fine. Jerry can follow up and try to help you figure out next steps, what can be done, because something doesn't sound right.
Well, I don't have a phone. I'm not going to have a phone or a computer or anything here in a minute, so.
Okay. Well, if you just stay after for a few
thank
minutes, Jerry can connect you too. Thank you. Okay, Jennifer Corcoran.
Recapping the series of unlawful evictions I've gone through since returning to Ohio, to Dayton, Ohio, Montgomery County. Nothing's changed. And I had a recent meeting with the CEO of the Public Housing Authority, Ms. Jennifer Heapy. And although we were able to establish the existence of this gigantic loophole between federal regulation and state and federal laws, we were not able to come up with a viable solution. Her offer to mention it to the courts and mention it to the administration falls way short of the obligations of her oath of office. And federal regulations that prohibit intimidation or retaliation. I've provided the office of the governor all the way down to the county administrators and commissioners individually 200 and some days of retaliation in his last eviction. Okay, and under the Fair Housing Act is illegal to evict or threaten to evict anyone for exercising their rights. Section 5321.02 in the Ohio Revised Code, retaliatory action by landlord is prohibited. Under Section 3.07 of the Ohio Revised Code's General Provision, Chapter 3, an officer, and oaths and bonds regarding the revocation of their office and bonds, forfeiture for failing to follow the law and these federal regulations. Period. I'm putting the county commission and everyone involved, the judiciary, who have taken an oath of office to follow these Ohio codes and federal codes regulations